What's up guys, welcome back to the shop. So today we have the wife's 2011 Suburban in, and we're finally gonna get around to fixing the heated and cooled seats. These things haven't worked for a couple years. It's getting to be winter time. She's been complaining every year that her ass is cold. So we're gonna go ahead and get these fixed. It should be a pretty simple process. I'm gonna walk through the steps and let's get to it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below when you got questions. So over here in the car, underneath the passenger seat is the little control module and the supply unit for the heated and cooled seats. First step, we're going to tilt the seat all the way back, lift it all the way up in the front. It's going to give us a little bit of extra room under there. So this box right here is the box we're after. That's the control module. So it's two 10mm bolts to pull it loose. Hopefully that's not the problem. Hopefully it's just the clip. So let's get that pulled off and take a peek at it. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing unplugged, see if we can figure out where the problem area is. Right off the bat, you can see that terminal's burnt, and that right there. So GM only has one power wire coming in here, and that thing gets hot and then gets a little corroded and burned up, and then it just burns up and looks like that. So what's that doing? That's basically keeping us from getting power to this unit. Hopefully the unit's still fine. We're gonna go ahead and clean that tooth up a little bit so it makes good contact, but we're gonna be replacing this clip here. All right guys, over here at the bench, so this is the module. You know, it looks a little burnt down in there on the power wire. This is the same module that Ford uses and GM, but for some reason GM only has one power and one ground. Ford uses both of these terminals for power and both of those for ground, so basically helps spread the load across that pin a little bit. We can pull this module apart pretty easily just to make sure nothing is messed up inside of it, and just kind of pop these little tabs up. The thing pulls apart. So inside of here, everything looks fine. You know, it looks a lot worse on the case. So we're just gonna knock that melted plastic off of there, put this thing back together. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll work and we won't have an issue there. I think the issue is our power. So we'll get this clipped back together. Okay, knock some of that plastic off. All right, so now we're gonna go over to our new clip. We are going to just use the two power and the two ground wires. The rest of these we're going to take apart and depin the other clip so that we don't have to solder all these wires together. We're only going to solder the four on the outside edge there. So two power, two ground. If you look at it, the top two are going to be the power. I believe the bottom two are your ground. So this is a pretty simple clip to take apart. This little gray part, just slide that over, slide it out, and then inside of there, there's a little plastic clip in there that retains that. So we just gotta pry up on that. I do have handy dandy Amazon special depinning tool set. So you can use a pick to get in there and just lift up on that, being careful not to break the tab off. Or we could just get something like this. And then we're just gonna lift up on that and then grab a hold of that wire. If I could see. Which I can't. Can't see no more. My eyes are going to shit. So we're just going to pry up on that little plastic tab, pry that back, pull the wire out. We're going to go ahead and depin all of these so we can swap over the harness that's in the car so we don't have to splice all these wires together. Alright, so now we have our new clip with the 2 powers and 2 grounds. We can go back into the car and depin the connector in the car. We'll go ahead and cut the positive and the negative off, and then we're going to solder these 2 leads together into the power. Well, this would be the ground, and then into the power for the top. Let's go to the car. Alright, clip here. Our ground looks like it's fine, but we're going to go ahead and splice in. See how that's got an open pin next to the ground there, and it's got an open pin next to the positive. This module has 2 ground terminals and 2 positive terminals, and for some reason GM in their infinite wisdom decided they didn't want to put both of those on, and it's just too much load on one pin, and so that's why we're getting our issues. So go ahead, and you might need to grab a pick. We'll go ahead and do these one at a time so that we don't and this thing is roasted and toasted and burnt to a crisp, so it might be a little difficult to get this cover off of here, and we might end up breaking this clip just to get it apart because it is stuck on there good. Okay, so this was by far the worst part of the project. It probably took me about 30-45 minutes in order to break that plastic piece out of there, only to find out that the factory pins did not work in the new clip. So I'd just go ahead and skip this step altogether, because you could solder or butt connect all these joints together in probably about 15-20 minutes. Save yourself a ton of time. I was hoping that I would be able to depin this and the factory pins would work in that connector. However, they did not. So we ended up wasting about 30-45 minutes depinning this thing, only to find out that the pins wouldn't work. So that being said, if I was going to do this thing all over again, I would go ahead and skip this step, and I would just cut the wires off and solder or butt connect them back together. You choose. Alright, so here's what happened. When this power wire melted, it melted this retainer all the way down in there, so it is completely fused into the clip, and this is the hardest part so far. This whole process is trying to get that out. So I'm going to keep picking away at this, trying to get that broke free so we can get these top 8 pins out and get this swapped over. So yeah, this is dumb. Alright, I don't remember where we were. I am pretty much mangling this clip. I cut the end off and split this thing. It's still melted solid right there, so it's not allowing that retainer clip to come out. Just want to be careful and make sure I'm not going to cut any of these wires, but I'm just going to keep hacking this thing in half, trying to spread it open. But we'll be able to get all the bottom pins out now for sure, so maybe we'll start swapping those over, give ourselves a little more room. I can't believe how melted this is. This is crazy. That is insane. It is fused solid, turned into one big piece of plastic. There we go. I think we're getting somewhere now. All right, now that was a piece that was holding everything out. Now we can start swapping them. So let's go back up here with our new clip. Okay. They don't quite look the same anymore, but we'll start at the top with this pink and black wire. Pink and black. All right, pull that pin out. look the same. There's a stud right there that these don't have, so I think that little guy right there is our culprit. No tip hanging down right there. All right, so these pins are not wanting to go into the new clip. The only difference I can see is this little tab sticking up right here. Where's the other pigtail? If you look, these don't have that tab right there. So I think that's hitting on the body of the clip. So before we go and just solder all of these, cut them all off, I'm gonna try this, and I'm just gonna bend that tab down just a little bit. Now, hopefully that will allow this to slide right in and we won't have to repin or resolder everything. Okay, that did work, except it's not locking. I'll make sure it's going to retain itself in there. This was supposed to be nice and easy, and it's fought me the whole way, so this video sucks. But we're just going to fire up the soldering iron, get the heat shrink out, and we're just gonna swap all these over. I'm done fighting it, so I'm gonna go put the pins back in that we took out. All right, got all the wires back in. We're gonna go ahead and slide our retainer clip back in there. Possibly, maybe. Push that down. All right, we're gonna call that good. Now we're just going to start over here. We're just gonna cut this wire. This is gonna be our pink and black wire. Give myself a little bit of room here. And we're gonna strip these out, get them soldered, put a little piece of heat shrink on it, aka throw my heat shrink all over the garage floor. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the ground first, which is these bottom two wires, just so that I don't have to worry about arcing the positive once we get that set up. So we're gonna take the bottom two wires, get them cut to length and stripped out. Go grab some bigger heat shrink, I believe. Oh my gosh, I can't even control my hand right now. Jesus, what in the hell? cool down for a second before we slide that heat shrink over. Yep. And last, but certainly not least, the positive wire. Now this is still hot, as mentioned earlier, so unless you disconnect your battery, be careful not to ground this on anything. Seat frame, any of that stuff will ground that. We don't want to do that. Especially now those wires are exposed. Oh, we're getting there finally. This has been a process for sure. It's probably dangling in the view. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing tested before we get it all taped up and put back in there. So go ahead and plug our clips back in. Hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, we will have air conditioning on our butthole and heat also. All right, plugged in. Car on. Nobody wants to listen to Husker football. And seat warmers. I heard it click. Let's see. Alright guys, got this thing tested. They are working. They do warm up now, nice and toasty. Plugged it all in, did it all, didn't have any power. The light's still turned on the door panel, but the main fuse had blown, probably from resistance in the wire. So I had switched that fuse around, or put a new fuse in, and now we got 12 volts down here to the unit. So that'd be something to check too, is make sure you got 12 volts here, your power wire, because we were not getting 12 volts here. So now that we have 12 volts, everything is functioning the way it should. So we're gonna go ahead and tape this up, put this thing back up, and be done with this thing. Alright guys, I'll have a link down in the descriptions for the parts and stuff I used on this. It's just an Amazon clip. Ended up not working by being able to depin it, which was kind of a pain. So I should have just probably cut the wires to start and just resoldered all of them, because once I did that, rather than trying to pop all that plastic out, it went pretty quick. I do want to say, make sure you check your fuse also, because I chased that for a while, not figuring out why it didn't have power before I got the voltmeter out to check it. But now everything is working. Realistically, start to finish, if I just would have cut the wires off, soldered them, probably would have been about a hour-long job or so. I'm probably about 2 hours in it now, dealing with picking all that plastic out and then just finding out that the pins would not work with the new clip. So that being said, we do have heated seats, so the wife's gonna be happy. And if you got any questions, leave them down below in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped. Hopefully it was helpful to you. And hopefully you can fix your heated seats if they're not working. Later.